This conference will now be recorded.
To the back of the shed, and that encroaches all the way up to the lot line, so it goes the full 5 feet. So based on those new facts, council didn't feel comfortable. They wanted to send it back to planning and zoning, so that's what we're at. And then also, a couple of council members were, taking a little bit more stringent approach to the requirements of granting a variance, having a problem with what, was this caused by the property owner? Are there truly practical difficulties? And, we wrestled that with ourselves at the planning meeting. Thought, well, let's try to come up with some reasoning here to get this thing through. And then some council members were questioning it. So then, like a few years ago, what the city did on another lot also next to the park, was there was actually a shed or a garage or whatever you want, a shed. It actually encroached all the way across the lot line, and some of it was in the park. And what happened there was the city entered into an encroachment agreement with the property owner, not requiring, really can't grant a variance when it completely crosses the line. So we entered into an encroachment agreement that said, fine, leave it there. We're not going to make you move this permanent structure, but at some point, if it ever is torn down through windstorm or fire or dilapidated, whatever, you can't rebuild it across the line into parkland. So we entered into that. So then, based on what we did before, and council questioning whether a variance is permitted, whether we can meet the criteria for granting a variance here, Mike Olson suggested maybe going the route of an encroachment agreement here too. And that was initially kicked around right away when this variance application was filed. So that's another reason they threw it back to planning, is to discuss whether an encroachment agreement would be appropriate. So the only difference between an encroachment agreement, in my mind, between that and a variance is essentially permanent. So if that, in the Nelson case, if that lean-to, blew over or a tree branch crashed into it, if it's a variance, he gets to rebuild it right where it is, all the way up to the lot line. If it's an encroachment agreement, he can't rebuild it anymore. And I talked to Mr. Nelson about that, and he initially, he's still of the mind that he was either misled or told by the previous zoning administrator that it was okay to build this lean-to all the way up to the lot line, but he has no documentation of that conversation. And I told him, whether that conversation happened or not, if we don't have any acknowledgement of that on City Hall or, no documentation, it's really hard to just go off the word of property owner, even no matter how believable you are, how much we like you, it's difficult. So, but then he was questioning me on this encroachment agreement. You got a copy in front of you here. And, he was saying, he was going through some scenarios like, okay, what if a tree branch falls on it? Is City Hall going to make me just tear the whole thing down? And it's probably gets gray, how much damage is done. If it's completely obliterated, probably can't rebuild it. If it's just, some replacing some of the top or the roof or whatever you want to call it, then you could probably continue to repair it and keep it there. So he's, based on his experience with City Hall in the past, dealing with the expansion of the camping lots in the park, there's a little bit of mistrust with City Hall. So he was leaning towards not signing this, but I guess as a commission here, we have to decide if we want to push for an encroachment agreement or reconsider making new findings on a variance and then sending it back to City Council. And if we decide to go the approach of an encroachment agreement, we may have to think about adjusting the language, because like under paragraph 3 there, it says no improvements or modifications to the lean-to shall be permitted. And Charlie was, there's always the classic in the world of tax, what's an improvement versus a repair? So he was wondering if either the word improvements could be completely eliminated, or I was thinking maybe put expansion in there instead. It basically says he can repair it, but if it comes to the point where it's completely needs to be replaced, then he can't build another lean-to there. So could possibly put expansion there, and then if he's still concerned about if a tree branch falls on it, how hardcore is City Hall going to be on him, whether it's a substantial loss to the lean-to or whether it's just minor.
How big is this lean-to?
It was 5 feet, and I guess, is it the width of the entire shed?
Or I believe so. We couldn't find it was stated that there's a building permit for it. We couldn't find it. That doesn't mean there's not a building permit.
I can't imagine, if this was an add-on after that shed was built, I can't imagine there would have been a building permit, because it's small enough where it would have been under the size limit, right?
Yeah.
Or was it built at the same time as the shed? I don't have any history on that.
So is it the tarp mat? Is that what we're discussing? The tarped part is the lean-to? Or no,
So
There's-
I didn't have these 2 pictures last meeting.
the roof is also part of the lean-to. On that first picture on 5A variance. Or page 1, I guess.
This,
Yeah, I mean, is it
I can't really tell what that is, but
the tarped part, that's part of the lean-to, and then
That
is
must be.
the roof is
The
also part of
main-
the?
probably the roof is too. And what I was told, what Mike Olson said is, was it the eaves trough up there, the gutter,
That's the
whatever?
piece.
That was actually overhanging a few inches over the line, and Charlie shaved it off so it wasn't overhanging the line.
Yeah,
And the next page has a patio, and
that's been removed, right?
we moved that because you can see that was on Parkland property as well.
I personally, I felt like the encroachment agreement was a win-win, and, that building could stay there for a long time and probably nobody's going to care. But
He doesn't like how this is worded, because it says that he can not make any improvements. That's what he's
Yeah, that's part of it. And he feels like if there's an issue out there, like, let's say a tree branch falls on it, partially damages it, is he going to get hassled by City Hall that says, no, that's it. It's done. You can't repair it. He's nervous about that. But I can't imagine City Hall doing that, but he feels a little bit gun shy now, I
So he
guess.
doesn't want to sign this lease.
That's what he said, but I told him, I hinted that, if council takes this hardline approach and you want to push for a variance and the council takes a hardline approach and says, no, we're not going to grant a variance. Now you've got a non-conforming structure and this denial of variance is supposed to be recorded. Now you've got a potential title issue with a buyer, right? Buyer sees that you've got this encroachment and the denial of a variance. You got this non-conforming structure, might make a buyer and a lender a little nervous. So I don't think he thought about that.
Well, it does say he can make repairs to it, so.
Right. But there's a big gray area. What's a repair? What's an improvement? It's a subjective thing. Is City Hall going to take a hardline position because he's nervous the way City Hall would view things? So that's.
Because I would think repair would be to put it back into the state that it was in prior.
Right, but at what
Not
point,
everybody's gonna
what if
see
it's,
that way.
but if you could take that argument to the nth degree and if totally demolished through windstorm or something, he's just rebuilding it to the way it was.
Repairing it to the way
Yeah,
it was.
that would be a major repair,
Yes,
but
it was.
so
Okay.
it's kind of subjective.
I don't know, I don't think it's unreasonable myself. No, I think it's pretty good. Well, this, like if it gets sold, what did you say about that? This will go with it then?
So if he said, no, I'm not signing this, and then we say, well, I guess we'd have to recommend to council whether to approve or deny a variance. And then if council takes a hard line approach and says, we just can't approve this variance because we don't think you've met these 5 requirements. Now it's a denial of a variance and you're supposed to record it against the lot. And, if he ever sells it, a buyer and a buyer's lender might see that show up in the title work and go, well, we probably need to deal with this. And
But this would take care of it.
I would think so. But if we can convince Charlie to sign it.
I think this should be sent to the council to approve just the way it is. Can I make a motion for that?
So so we recommended approval of a variance. Council had questions, concerns, threw it back. So I guess it's completely back to square one. To reconsider based on these new facts. So the way I've worded this is we're not saying it's a variance anymore. In fact, I put some language in here that Nelson's are withdrawing their variance application and we're just going the route of an encroachment agreement instead. So if we want to take that approach and then I can try to have another conversation with Charlie and try to assuage his concerns. I guess if he'd like to remove the word improvements in section 3 and put expansion, I'm okay with that. I can't imagine that in the grand scheme of things, we're going to have a big issue with this lean-to ever.
Will this go to public hearing, encroachment agreement?
No, I think, we've already had the public hearing on the variance and we recommended it. Now it came back and now we're recommending that it go the route of an encroachment agreement. And I've got language in here that says Nelson's are withdrawing their variance application. I mean, they haven't yet, but if they sign off on this, then they're deemed to have withdrawn it. We don't have to worry about proving all the factors of variance. We just sign this encroachment agreement instead and be done with it.
And that question on the variance, is this like the other one? And when he sells the house, it has to be removed for this?
It would stay, it would be binding on future owners. So if he sells it, the future owner would have to abide by this too.
Right, I mean, they couldn't go any further, they couldn't,
Right.
they couldn't rebuild it, but it could stay there if he
Would
was
stay
selling.
there for the next 30 years. Yeah.
Can I say a couple things?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think with that change, I would think that'd be more palatable. When you had to remove it, I think that was the big sticking point for Charlie, that he didn't want that on there because that's going to affect the sale, of course. But he's not over the property line.
Right.
So, so this is just damage, right? Was removed, encroaching lean-to, and then if the lean-to is substantially damaged. Yeah, so basically it's damage, not sale. With the reword.
Yeah, it would stay, it would
But it-
definitely pass along to the
The
next
next
property
owner would
owner.
just be,
Mhm.
have to abide by this,
Yeah.
but Charlie would not have to take it off there
No,
before he sold it.
Right.
So that, I think, might be more palatable. Truly, the council, I think the only question they had was the wording of the previous variance said that it was 2 feet off the property line.
yeah.
And
we
so then they
talked about
started
that.
asking questions. Okay, good, yep.
Yeah.
Sorry,
It was
sorry, it's late.
inaccurate information
Yeah.
that we didn't
Yep,
we
so-
didn't have, so.
But if we think the encroachment, if we think we can get him to buy off on this, he's probably not gonna talk to me, Kurt.
I'll call him again.
Or you could, yeah.
You know, I'll just kind of explain that we'll change that language to expansion, and then his concern is the big gray area between substantially damaged or minor damage, repair versus improvement. You know, City Hall could take one position, he could take another position. I think bottom line is, I don't think City Hall is gonna be hardcore on him, no matter what happens. So if a tree branch falls on it and he wants to repair it, I don't think anybody will have an issue, right?
Not in that location.
No. Sorry, that took 20 minutes.
I thought this started at 6. I had 6 in my head. I'm sorry.
So Matt, you'll talk to Charlie and then we'll bring it to city council.
Yeah, I guess, and if he still has issues, I guess I'll tell him you're welcome to come to the city council meeting if you want. So I guess, you know, we're not recommending approval or denial of variance, we're just kind of recommending going with the route of this encroachment agreement instead, and maybe replacing the word improvements with expansion, if that's all right with everybody.
I'll make that motion. So, you need more?
You need a second.
No, I think that's all you need, yep, to approve the encroachment agreement with that word change. Second, okay, motion second. Further discussion? If not,
Who was
all-
the second? Who was the second?
Bev, you seconded?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Beth.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstained, carries 400.
They both built? Just kidding.
Oh, yeah. FW. All right, now we're on to,
6A. It's in your packet. It'll be the second. Part of the packet, which is where the 6A. I need 3 packets because it's on paper. And this feels like it's not. So at the top it says 6A storage facility.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody got that one?
Yeah.
It's got a couple pictures of, well, what we usually have pictures of. All right, so what this is we need to verify the language to see if we can build a storage facility on this lot. So Steve Bucher, looking to build a storage facility at 1431 North Star Drive. The parcel is zoned as commercial 2. The Buchers have a storage facility across the street, which is labeled as industrial 2. So when you look at the map, you can see 1431, which from what I was told used to be a drive-in restaurant back in the day.
The lantern?
Across the street, across North Star Drive, you head east, you can see the current storage facility just north of the Goodhue County Co-op Electric Association. So Steve's looking to put that there, and what he's looking at is this C2 Highway Commercial District. If we could find language in there that would work. And what I found, I'm sorry. when you look at the map, letter F at the top is one of the accessory uses of C2. This is outdoor storage, sales, and display and items directly related to the permitted use within the principal structure. So as you go through C2, you can see what it's allowed, commercial district and so on, restaurants, government buildings, greenhouses, lumber yards, et cetera. Accessory uses, letter F may fit for what we need it for. So what we need from the planning commission is just to kind of clarify that, yes, this could be built in a C2.
Whether it's a permitted use or not.
Permitted, yes.
Just asking for the interpretation, yeah.
We get
And I
it.
do know, I'm a little bit leery of my memory since I forgot about the ordinance change on pole sheds. But I do remember that the storage structure by the Ford garage is also, I think, C2. And I think
Correct.
we allowed that as a permitted use back in the day. And I know some people were upset about that. They thought, no, that shouldn't just be storage units. That should be, good highway, with signage and businesses to attract people from the highway. And, why are you putting up dumb storage buildings? But anyway, it was allowed once back then. So if we were to make a different interpretation now, we'd probably have to think about that.
What's that we're butting right up against sorry, Madam, talk, but you're butting right up against the I-2 anyway. What's the harm rezoning it to I-2?
Whether we even need to rezone it. I mean, why not just say it's an allowed use in a C2 and be done with it if we want?
Sure. If that's what we want, yeah. I think the Aldi building where those stores, that's one you're talking about, right? Where we allow loud storage units in there?
Which one?
The Aldi building? The Family Dollar?
Aren't there
around there?
storage units next to the Ford parking lot?
Oh, on that side of the road, that's C2. I was
Isn't that C2?
I was on the other side. I had that one in my head. Oh, okay,
Isn't it?
sure. Yeah, so then. That ship has already sailed, it sounds like.
Well, I mean, it doesn't mean we're handcuffed by it, but you do have to think about that.
Mhm.
I think the last time we went into it was sort of like subdivision 2M. Uses determined by planning commission to be similar to those listed in this subdivision. So that's pretty wide open. Yeah, the specific permitted uses are specific businesses listed. Greenhouses, lumberyard, motor vehicle sales, liquor establishments, restaurants, retail businesses, storage facility, maybe a little bit iffy, but I think back then the planning commission didn't see any harm in it because they're a necessary thing. They always seem to be in demand. Whether there's a better place for one, that's always an issue, but is that the best use for this lot?
I think this is a better place for one.
That next
Than
to
the other one,
Ford.
yeah.
Right,
This would be better.
right.
Yeah.
I mean, this does seem more like an industrial park. I'm surprised that isn't zoned industrial in the first place.
Like a warehouse.
Yeah.
And then just south is the lot, which is for DFA.
Doesn't really do violence. So then the question is, all right, let's say somebody wants, they see our decision back in the Ford day, they see our decision now. Now they want to use some sort of prime lot in Jacobson Commercial Park or something, put up a storage building there. We say, well, it didn't seem as objectionable down here, but up there, we want to preserve that for a nice retail type business. And they'll say, You already decided that this is allowed in C2, so we can do whatever we want. So we got to face that argument. If it happens. You'd think if somebody was going to buy one of those lots up in Jacobson, if there's any left, that it would be more appropriate to put in some sort of retail business that's, listed in permitted uses.
But we have a say as to what we think is the highest and best use of the lot, don't we?
Not
I mean,
really.
that's
If it's
what
a
our-
permitted use, then they can do it.
Yeah,
You can't really say this should be over here if it's allowed in a zoning district.
but what they're proposing here, I think it's the best use of
You do?
that lot out here.
Yeah.
Well, unless there was a hotel or something that wanted to go there, then that would be a different story, but,
Yeah, but it's not too likely. I mean,
No, it's
they're
been what
not back where that is.
right, it's been what it's been for so many years, and we get something in there that's gonna be very useful to the community.
There's obviously demand for it, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, like Brian suggested, if we don't feel comfortable, we could do a rezone, or we could just say, these are allowed in C2 and be done with it.
But it sure fits in the C2. There'd be no reason, would there be, to rezone it?
Yeah, the only thing is that like I was saying, if there's a prime lot in another C2 lot, up by Jacobson Park,
Yeah.
that we thought, that probably wouldn't be a great spot for a storage building. We might not have any say over it.
We risk setting a standard by, maybe that standard is already set.
Right.
So what do you think we should do?
I'm just the facilitator.
Well, we kind of have to be guided.
I like tax money, so I think.
What did
that
she
you
say?
need- I said, I like tax money, and a perfect example
There you go.
of one that blew it is that car wash right on the prime lot. When you pull in next to the old Alco building or the Family Dollar, that was a prime lot, and it went in this car wash. Not that that's a bad thing, it's not. It's just that that was a prime retail location, so that's why it's important like this location, I think is pretty acceptable, but I think that if they start to expand frontage area on 52,
Mhm.
you're gonna wanna be able to not have things that don't generate as much tax dollars.
Right, or
You
they
know.
look nice or are detrimental.
Well, and I think they look nice and fine and everything like that, but I think a lot of it is tax dollar
But when the
generation. You
guy
wouldn't want
went-
them next to the highway, maybe you'd want them a little bit off, or not, I mean,
Yeah.
that's kind of up to
We
you.
did have a
business.
request one time for a recycling place that was very visible from the highway, and we thought that it wasn't the best use of that then. So we didn't approve that.
I thought we did.
I was thinking that
I think it did get approved.
I was thinking we did, yeah, but with
He
some,
hasn't done
with some
anything.
parameters.
They just haven't done anything.
Okay.
Not that it doesn't have junk piled up out there, but.
And don't get me wrong, I like storage, storage is good.
How much influence-
Everybody needs it.
How much influence does City Hall and EDA have on, you got interested people and you say, well, we'd like to see this type of business here. And if they get that vibe, does that help? Or do they say, I don't care what you say, we want to put a storage shed there and that's that? I'm just throwing that out. Maybe City Hall has a little bit of influence to encourage a certain type of business on a certain type of lot, maybe, but.
Oh, there's conversations that are always had about things like that, of course.
Right.
They still gonna keep the turnoff of Highway 52 at that spot after every,
Yes,
So
that
that'll
appears that it'll stay the way it is, right in, right out. Fighting hard to keep the left in as well, coming south. Overpass might not be feasible there, which would cut things off more than it is now anyway. But they're at some point, there'll be an interchange, full interchange, on ramps, off ramps, up at County Road 7 or 165th. So that whole area is gonna be accessible through probably a frontage road.
So what do you think? Well, I suppose we could do a motion. Do we just want to say it's a permitted use, or what are you thinking?
That's what I would like to do, make a motion that it's a permitted use in the C2 district.
Under subdivision 2M. I think that fits better than the F. F is an accessory use. Or under
Yeah, this
accessory
is the
uses,
main-
that's yeah.
Main dog, isn't it? Okay, so we got a motion. Is there a second? Any further discussion? If not, all in favor? I suppose you should,
Yep.
because you're, was there discussion there? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstain? 301 because of close relative, right? Sibling.
All the time?
Loves their brother.
All right, then 6B.
So this is the third and final packet, sorry. 6B, possible rezone. All right, this just came to City Hall lately, last week. Killer Apartment Properties came to City Hall with a meeting with Mr. Hamel, Mr. Grudem, Ron Ziegler from CETA and myself on March 6th. They're looking to build another apartment unit where the old Franzen Bank is located on 3rd Street, so right down the street here. The unit would have 15 two-bedroom, 14 three-bedroom, and 9 studios, and it would be roughly 4 stories from the parking lot. So it would be 3 stories from the front of the bank, if that makes sense to you. The parcel is currently zoned Commercial 1, which does not have language on apartments other than apartments located above businesses, much like you find on Main Street. The city staff recommends a public hearing be set for April 9th at City Hall to rezone the parcel to much like the other Keller Bartman apartments, PUDR, which would deal with setbacks as well as height of the building and basically what we need to get done. So I looked at the other Keller Bartman building at 300 West Avenue is zoned as PUDR, and there's a copy of the minutes from March 10th, 2020, where they rezoned that lot to make it available for the building. So you can see there the examples of the minutes that were, the motions that were passed.
Will we have specifics on what exactly, like the setbacks, the proposed setbacks will be?
Yeah, you can go back, the second to last page in the packet has a, they don't have the setbacks listed on here. But to tell you the truth, it is close because in this district, in C1 district, your front setback is 0 and the side is 0, but the back is like 15 feet and it's close on the back. But then again, they won't allow just straight apartments in Commercial 1. They have to have a business. So if Keller Bartman was to put a business where that current bank is and then put apartments on top, it's almost like it would fit in Commercial 1.
So this is straight C1, not C1A, right?
Correct.
Yep.
And so you can see a picture of the artist rendition of what it's supposed to look like, the third to last page. And then you can see an outline. Parking will be a separate issue that we'll deal with due to the fact that what our ordinance says and what they have is different.
It'll be the same, it'll have some parking underneath like the
Yeah.
current,
So the first floor, as you can see,
would just be parking.
yeah, and it's all on this page. The picture looks like this, right?
Okay.
Well, if they want to do it again, huh?
Yes, and these are 2, let's see, the breakdown I think it was, oh yeah, you've got them on here. Yeah, there are 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms, and then 9 studios. So 38 units. I don't know if they're going to get 38 on here. So the rush on this is we are applying for where they would like us to apply for a workforce development grant. And that's due the end of April. And to do that, we need to have everything kind of lined up. Where what I would like to see, or what we'd like to see is a discussion on, the rezone. I think that probably they're gonna be inside the setbacks, similar to the other building. So I think a PUD is gonna be needed at some point. So what I like to see, if the planning commission is open to it, would be to set a public hearing for a rezone. And then, we'll do that public hearing, and then the planning commission can do their vote whether we want to rezone it. But is the council is the final say on it, right, Matt, before it is in stone? I mean, can we go that far? That way we can put in the grant paperwork that yes, the rezone has been approved by the planning commission, but it's not done yet. Just in case we don't have a project, in case it doesn't happen, in case the grant doesn't come through. Because in order to have rents where they need them to be, they need the grant and TIF funding. And we've got TIF rolling. We're condensing that whole process, 90-day process, down into about 5 weeks. And that's similar. We don't have to execute the TIF. It just, all the paperwork has to be in place, ready to go.
If they don't get the grant, they can't build them.
If they don't get the grant, they wouldn't be able to build the building and have rents that people would be able to afford.
Yeah, we've approved like a conditional rezone before, like if the project doesn't take off, it reverts back to what it was. Is
Okay.
that what you're saying?
That's exactly, yeah. If we can do that's what we'd like to see. Because I have to put that in the grant paperwork that it's approved. If the project happens, the rezone will happen.
The question is, like when you approve a PUD with, like reduced or relaxed setbacks and height, how specific, how much specifics are we going to have at this public hearing? Or will it just be, yeah, it's an open-ended question and we'll figure it out later on during the site plan review or something? That's the only issue.
Yeah, I think we could use the example from the first building as kind of the guiding, because this is going to be similar. They're going to want to be right up to the, close to the sidewalk as they can be, which is the property line.
Yeah.
Because they're not going to have a lot of space. I happen to think it might shrink a little bit because there's a culvert under there.
Yeah.
And they can't provide enough parking spaces, on their lot.
Yeah.
Is this facing west, running north and south? Is that how the building was set?
Be facing the big part is that part you're looking at is facing towards Nielsen's.
So which picture is facing towards Nielsen's?
Yeah. Oh, you do have color ones.
Mine's black and white.
Mine's black.
I did a lot of cussing after that, sorry.
Yeah.
And I'd be facing west.
This would be Nielsen's.
So north and south on the left.
Yep, and then this side will be kind of plain. I'd like to see retail on the street level, but that's just not possible in this location.
And the parking would be out front towards Nielsen's.
Well, angled parking, and then it's all parking underneath, which would enter in off of Second Street? No, First. Is this First or Second?
Second.
You can always get confused.
Turns to first when you get.
Yeah, so Second Street, which is a county road, which could be sticky as well. It has proven to be sticky with the drive-through. So there are some factors here that could derail the whole project.
Right.
But our goal is to get this grant submitted to see if they can get the money. If they can get the money, then we'll work through everything. And we'll have things in there that say, it has to meet all the.
Specifics in it, in the grant writing?
Not for the building, it has to have unit count, all that stuff, which, we got to talk more about, because what happens with the grant if they come in with less units than they applied for? They're only asking for $2 million.
It's going to be done at a certain point in time, so I'm thinking, well, if they rush it through to do that, then what kinds of things are not?
Right. End of April is when we have to submit. So I'll talk a little bit more with Andy. I told him, I said, it's going to be a tight site. I don't know, we can't commit to that, you can build this much.
It'd be great if they could get this going. You think of the many builders we went through for the Grover property. I mean,
Yeah, and
several.
they're very motivated, they want to get this done. They're gonna build 2 now, both hoping to get grants. Grants for both of them, so the rents would be up. But with the rates the way they are, they're not out doing anything else, and they wanna put one in Zumbrota.
Seems to be still a need, right?
Oh, yeah, they could have sold, what did you say, 15 or more, 2 bedrooms, 2 and 3 bedrooms when they had their open house. Right off the bat, they could have just, and that's gonna open up other housing in town. Maybe I'll move in there in 10 years,
The hope is to get people to move out of their homes
Yeah.
into.
Yep.
The one that's already up, was it people in town that moved in there? So we did get more houses
Some.
available, or did people come from out of town and scoop them up?
Cannon Falls had some families that lived, or people who lived here, and they moved back to Cannon Falls once they opened that big Keller apartment in Cannon Falls.
Yeah.
I had a meeting yesterday with a guy in Rochester who's looking at one of these apartments because he works in Rochester and he lives in the cities, and he was all over Zumbrota moving in, so.
And you can pay $1,200 for the same apartment that he paid $2,400 for in Rochester.
I know you were hoping for a microbrewery there, but I suppose this is second best.
Well, we'll get one somewhere. Kurt's on that one too.
So a motion to schedule a public hearing when, Kurt?
April 9th, 5:35.
I'll make that motion.
If it's purchased by Keller Park.
Yeah, I guess we'll just have to put in some language that's sort of conditional on some of these things, right?
I will talk to Andy about more specifics for the public meeting.
Let's see, is there a second?
I'll second.
You look concerned about age.
No, apartments are good. Just feel like the whole, I don't think for that where they wanted to put that other storage unit place. Well, this is close to downtown and
Well,
it's
that's true.
Yes.
walkable.
Yeah, it helps,
People can get to the post office, they can get to the grocery store.
Mhm.
They'll have parking.
Yes,
And
yes,
that is a major thing with housing anymore, is to have it in a walkable area.
You bet.
Yeah, it's nice, yeah.
And this would certainly fit that.
All right, any more discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstained, carries 6C.
Report maybe at the next meeting when there's more people here.
Okay.
Is that all right?
Let's do that.
Is there singing and stuff?
It's a dance show.
Dancing and singing?
It's gonna be great.
Yeah, nice. I'll make it some.
All right, meeting adjourned, thank you.